Welcome to our Office Hours podcast of Your Week with St. Luke's. We are looking at the Gospel of John and asking a question that Oliver asks of where is love? And today we are really excited because we are joined by some of our cast, our like the important cast. Like, I mean, they're all important, but like the main cast, I should say. And so first of all, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us how you're connected with the show. Oliver, let's start with you, Omari.
Hi, my name is Omari Pernell. I play Oliver in Oliver.
Look at you. The title is you. How exciting. That's so cool.
Yeah, I was really excited when I found out that I was playing Oliver. I've done a lot of shows here, so yes.
We were joking beforehand, you've grown up on our stage.
Yeah.
Do you remember how old you were in the first one?
I think the first one I did here was Charlie Brown Christmas, and that was either in 2016, 2017. Right. And so I was around 7, 8.
Oh, wow. Baby.
So, and now you're a seasoned professional.
Gosh.
We are so excited that you're telling this story.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm glad you're here. How about you?
I am Faith Boles, and I'm playing the role of Nancy in Oliver. I'm very excited. It's actually a bucket list role for me, so this is like a big deal.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm very excited.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
And I'm Steve McKinnon. I'm the artistic director here at St. Luke's and co-directing Oliver.
All right, so you said it was a bucket roll list, which is really cool. I'm excited about that because you've considered playing the role of Nancy before. How are we telling the story differently than you imagined?
Well, first of all, I will say that being a person of color, Nancy was never really something that I was ever offered because it's just how musical theater is. Unfortunately, sometimes it's all about looks a lot of times. And so I kind of put it in the back of my mind that maybe it might happen. I wasn't really sure. It's definitely always in my vocal wheelhouse. Right. But just of this, the nature of how theater has come up until 2020 and recently with things changing in the theater industry, I'm happy to say that I can finally play this role. But in this particular, production, since we're modernizing it, I think it's important to have a BIPOC person of color playing Nancy because of the story that we're telling, which is how we are sitting in Kissimmee and portraying these characters as we are. An audience, but also seeing yourself on stage as well. So I think it's important, and I'm really excited about it.
That's cool. Yeah. What about for you, Oliver? Like, how is it different for you?
Definitely because we're setting it in 2022, but it's also like how, yes, I am a person of color, and so it's nice because I watched like a lot of theaters perform Oliver on like YouTube and stuff, and so it's nice seeing a person of color, Oliver, on stage, and I'm glad that I get to be the one portraying it, I guess.
That's really cool. You don't get to use a British accent either, right?
No, I don't. I prepared.
Thank goodness for that, because I was a little nervous about my little Cockney. I have not done that since college, so thank you, Steve.
Yeah.
Omari's got one, though, because he was Michael Banks in Mary Poppins.
I was going to say, you did that in Mary Poppins. You were really good at that.
Thank you.
Yeah, very good. So what have you learned so far about not only the show and the characters you're playing, but also maybe learned about yourself being in the show?
Well, I've learned a lot about poverty and people being in poverty. At like one of the first days of rehearsal, we did a cost of poverty experience, and it really showed me how not everyone has the benefits that other people do. But also I learned a lot about me, I guess, and how like Oliver, he doesn't have a great life, and it's kind of sad, and he basically gets sold to another family, and it's weird, it's really sad and heartbreaking, but I learned a lot about how myself being Oliver, and it's
a lot. Yeah. What about you, Steve or Faith?
Again, with the poverty experience, that was very eye-opening. It was a very it was hard to go through, just as a cast, but also individually. But it was very important because even though I knew the information already, it was experiencing and going through that and just having to struggle with it and having all the materials, it really sunk in. And it made me feel very empathetic to that, especially with Nancy in general, because she goes through a lot in 2.5 hours. And it just made me really think about her situation in general, just about how she doesn't feel like she has a choice in some of the things that she does. And she really is honestly like the saving grace of the show. And I didn't really think about that until that experience. And it's helped me a lot to find her and within myself, and to be able to portray her correctly. So yeah, it's been an eye-opening experience, and definitely has made me think about what I can do outside of this experience and this production to maybe give back in a different way.
I think on my end as a director, it's been challenging. You know, a lot of times it's fun to be creative with our art, doing theater and dream big, but then making sure the projects we do always has our why, but also making sure that we bring integrity to everything we're doing. So like our Cause of Poverty experience was wonderful to make sure everyone can learn empathy for these people whose story that we were telling, but then also we have some partnerships that we've been partnering with along the way, so we are not generalizing and doing harm, and trying our best not to do harm in representing a group of people that are our neighbors, and not just our neighbors, but we even have folks that this is their story, that they're a part of our cast, that no one knows because they are you and me, you know. But so how do we do that? And as a director of a ministry and of a theater production, making sure that integrity, that authenticity, but really that we are honoring everyone in that heart and is grounded there, and making sure we're doing our best to not do harm in that, so we can tell that story beautifully, but also honor the people whose story we're telling.
Right. It's so easy sometimes to make it us and them, stage audience, us and them, stage and story, us and them, and to make caricatures and of anyone different. And I think you're handling this so beautifully. And the Cost of Poverty experience, for those of you who don't know, is something that we work through missions to do. It's a 2-hour experience, a simulation exercise of living as a family. All the families represented are families who are actual families who have given their story to cope, and living at or below the poverty level in a month period. And we're actually going to offer that after Oliver for anyone in the community or who comes to Oliver to be a part of. So it'll be one of those after kind of like, if you want to learn more, if you want to be a part of this after seeing this show, you can come to the Cost of Poverty experience. So if you listeners haven't been through it, we invite you to kind of check that out. That'll be happening in August or September here at the church. So we're tying this as a church to John's gospel. So the Gospel of John is all about Jesus incarnate, God with us with skin on. And the beginning of John, in Eugene Peterson says that God came to us and love moved into the neighborhood, which is kind of what we're trying to do with this story. So how are you seeing that expressed in the show? This idea that we're kind of, love is moving into the neighborhood. Do you see God in it? Do you see love in it? Where do you see it in the story?
Definitely when, like, God is always there. Oliver, after he gets, like, captured and taken to Mr. Brownlow's, he gets, like, really taken care of. He gets fed, and it's kind of like a miracle. And so it's like God made that miracle happen. And it's also how, like, even meeting Dodger and getting a place to live, it's really like, he's always there, especially in this with Oliver. And I think Where is Love is like a call to God and asking him, like, where is everything that I need? Because it's not here. And I'm not being treated well, I guess. But yeah,
That's deep. That was good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. How are you experiencing it? Where are you seeing that incarnate love in the story, first of all?
I think with Nancy, because she is going through so much and is a little out of her mind most of the show, I feel like that she sees God through Oliver. I think that leading up to this point in the show, when we start the show, especially, she's just a mess. And I feel like Oliver coming into the picture helps her to see, wow, there's a way out. And she's finally found unconditional love. She thought she had it with her relationship with Bill, which is a very toxic, abusive relationship, because that's all she knows. But it's not real love. And I think that she finds it in Oliver, and that is, she sees God through him and is like, wow, like this is like really what love is. And I am going to go after this, and I'm going to help him find his family, you know, and help him get to where he needs to be. And then I'm not going to give away the rest of the show because you have to buy a ticket. Great. But, you know, at the end, something happens, and, you know, and I think Oliver changes her. So she finds love. And I think that as in our lives, when you go through hard things in your life, and I think God comes in and changes you and develops, and you find this unconditional love and you find purpose. And I think that is what Oliver is for her, is God's love and her finding herself through him, and realizing that she's in a situation where God's there and she can change.
That's so beautiful, because you bring up a point. You know, we've talked a lot about poverty and children in poverty and living in families living in motels, but there is this whole other story of domestic violence and abuse, and you play that role.
Yeah.
We got questions from, well, Jim Harnish actually asked the questions like, what are you going to do to redeem this? And I'm like, I'm not so sure we redeem it as much as lift it up as this is an issue, not just for people in poverty, of course, and not just for women. What is it like for you playing that story, that role?
It's pretty intense.
I'm sure.
I definitely have to go to a different place. As a person, I am unfortunately a person that has experienced an abusive relationship. I've been there, so I understand the struggle of getting out of something. So I definitely have to put myself in a very different place, so I'm not triggering myself. But I also recognize that we have to shed light on these relationships, because I think it's not talked about enough.
Exactly.
You know, I think it's hard for, not just for women, for men too, because men can experience abusive relationships too. It's not just women.
Absolutely.
So we have to shed light on that too. But I think it's important to shed light on it and to talk about it and to know that you're not alone, and, you know, it's okay, and there are resources for you. And I think that, again, like having someone like Oliver come into her life and realize this is wrong. Like I need to find myself, and I deserve better, is definitely helpful. So as a person, as Faith Boles playing the role, I fully admit that I have to fight through some things, but it's also therapeutic in a way as well for me. And that's beauty of theater, is that it can be so therapeutic, and it also reflects life. And that's what we're doing with Oliver. So
it's interesting, because I think people often think of domestic violence or those toxic relationships as being physical. It can be emotional too.
Absolutely.
I mean, having been through that myself, and it is clearly what we talked about last week in the podcast, that where is love question that you answered so beautifully, Omari, is people showing up as unconditional love. Being Jesus incarnate is what, like you said, Faith, turns the light bulb in those of us who have been in those relationships to go, why am I accepting so little for myself? Like, oh wait, hold on, I'm beloved and I'm worthy of love, and why am I allowing myself to be loved less than I deserve? And I think so many people live in that story with other people. They live in that story with the church, in toxic relationships with their church, as we've talked about. And you bringing that to light is just, it's beautiful. So thank you for going there for us.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah. Steve, let's talk about how love gets expressed through our cast. I mean, this is what, our 10th? Is this our 10th season?
Gosh, I think so.
I don't know. We've been doing this so long.
You know I'm bad at math, Jen.
I know. You and I both. We shouldn't ask those questions. What's it
10.
like? Now, Omari, you've been in this since 2016 with us.
Yes.
This is your first production with us, Faith.
Yes.
But
on stage.
On stage.
Yes.
What is that? Like, how do you think love and the incarnate love of Christ is expressed with our cast and our production each year?
So I think our theater ministry is definitely something special and different, and has grown into part of our community as being a network, but also being a family, a place of resource sharing, but also of connection and growth. And we have folks that are on both sides of the table. They can then get to experience being on stage. We have some folks being on stage for the first time ever. A lot of folks who might feel not welcome to the church. What's been so really special about a theater ministry is saying, hey, we're not trying to make everyone a St. Luker. We are doing theater at St. Luke's, right? And through that experience, you get to witness and experience and live what it means to be a St. Luker alongside us. So it creates this safe place, this place of connection for people to come and create theater and create a community. And that community has kind of grown in the last 10 years, right? And people come and go and they come back. And it's magical because it is professional performers, designers, creators, artists. It is amateurs, first-timers, and everything in between. And our community being located, St. Luke's, in that hub of this entertainment community of Central Florida between all of the theme parks. Right, we have this embarrassment of riches of people, of creative, passionate, artistic hearts, where we're located, and it creates this bond of Central Floridians that come, whether they just come to watch or then they come and take part of it, and they know there's a place here for everybody, and I think they experience that through their time. Is it perfect? No, right? And it's not. And the same thing, we talk about the cast not being perfect. It's messy, but so is God's love, right?
Yeah,
and we,
right.
And we love it. So it's special and all ages, right? We work with 7-year-olds, and it's just amazing being able to get to walk beside young folk, retired folk, and create true relationship. And that's not done off stage. That's when we're sitting waiting to go on in our scenes and waiting for 2 hours before we do anything during tech, right? Or whatever it might be. And connecting with our community. And it's pretty special.
Yeah, one of the ways we don't intend for everybody to become St. Lukers, but we love it when they do. I mean, I think there's something special about being able to go, we're telling the story on behalf of the church, which is different. I mean, every theater does storytelling. There's no negating that at all. But we're telling it on behalf of the church, which is connected to this larger story.
Which is part of our lens.
Yeah,
right?
It's the lens in which we do everything.
Stories.
Like just listening to Fagan's song a couple weeks ago in worship and hearing Nicodemus sing that song, and the difference between Fagan and Nicodemus was that Fagan says at the end, there's no one here to change the
scene for me,
and Nicodemus luckily had Jesus. And so how do we maybe change the scene that some people have been given? And so you guys get to be a part of that, and you all become the preachers for the next 3 weeks. You become the preachers and the primary theologians, and so thank you all for that and what that means. Anything else that you go, I want people to come see this show because?
Children. There's children in this. Come see professional children.
Yeah. Beautifully talented children too.
But also, like, you will really, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful musical play. Come
see professional children telling children's stories.
Yes.
Yeah, that's awesome. What do you think, Faith?
I think come see a show that you're going to get everything. You're going to be happy, and then you're going to be crying too, but hopefully it will help people to get out there and maybe make a difference. That's the beauty of modernizing this amazing show, is that we're shedding light on a situation and a problem, an ongoing problem. And again, theater reflects life. So if you're feeling something, then let's use your platform and let's do something about it. So I hope that is something that people take away from this, is maybe being a little bit more empathetic and opening their eyes with just things that are right down the street on 192 in Kissimmee. So.
Amen. All right. Thank you. We're glad that you are with us this week. And next week, we have some more cast and missions people coming to talk about kind of what we do with that, just exactly what Faith said. What do we do with these stories, and how do we make a difference? So we will join you again next week on Your Week with St. Luke's.